All right, welcome back. We are continuing our coverage of the historic third indictment in the last 4 months of former President Donald Trump. For more, I want to welcome in former Acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matt, good morning. Great to see you. Every time something happens with the Biden family or there's bad news, 3 times in a row now with Joe and Hunter Biden, we get another Trump indictment. I'm wondering what you make of these charges. It didn't take long to go through it. The indictment runs just about 40 pages. And Jack Smith has got a reputation of overcharging and overdoing it. Do you think he lays out a clear-cut case in this indictment?
Well, good morning, Rob, and good to be with you today. You're right on your first part, that is every time there is some development in the Hunter Biden case, as soon as Congress has a new witness, the first indictment comes, then the superseding indictment, and now we have this indictment. As I've read through this indictment, it's a creative indictment. It's a little sloppy in the way it lays out the facts. I mean, obviously he wanted to do a speaking indictment to bring all of the events of January 6th in. But it's the legal theory that I think is interesting, but I think it falls very flat. Jack Smith has been rebuked by the Supreme Court 9-0 on his Bob McDowell, the former governor of Virginia case, where he took a very creative legal theory, and I think this follows that same pattern.
The DOJ had this policy that's been in place for a long time, not to pursue politicians during an election year. Apparently, we are just throwing out that history. What's your response to that and reaction? Because now it looks like that Trump could be on the campaign trail and taking part in trials at the same time.
Which, as you know, and I'm sure many of the viewers know, is impossible. I mean, Rob, what we have here is a situation where the Department of Justice, instead of letting the American people decide whether or not Donald Trump should be reelected president, they're trying to put their thumb on the scale. They're trying to get these trials done before the primary season is over. In fact, the Mar-a-Lago document case is scheduled for really right in the middle of the heat of the primary season. I can't imagine that this January 6th trial of Donald Trump will take place before the summer and into the fall, which is the main part of the campaign. And I don't think either one of these ultimately goes to trial before the general election in 2024. But at the same time, that is significant to have to prepare for a trial, even if it is right after the 2024 election.
Which is so fascinating. So let's say Donald Trump wins the nomination and then wins the general election. And who knows? New York Times Siena poll out this morning has got him tied with the sitting president at 43%. So he's tied with Joe Biden, which really you've got to give the edge to the former president if you're tied with a sitting president. But that would mean that he would be in a position to pardon himself on the 2 federal charges before. So we might never see a trial. And then all of these other candidates, let's say it's somebody else. Let's say Tim Scott is president in January 2025. He would then most likely be in a position to pardon Donald Trump as well. My goodness, how do you see this playing out?
Well, I think I'm going to be on your show many more times between now and then.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think that the case is going to play out kind of slowly and deliberately. I don't think the trials happen, but you're right. Depending on who wins in 2024, we don't know. Some of the candidates that are competing against the president, if somehow they overcome the 40-plus point deficit that they currently have in the primary polls, many of them have said that they would pardon Donald Trump, and we don't know even who ultimately, if the Democrats were to win, and maybe Joe Biden, maybe somebody else. You just never know. I mean, obviously, this is going to unfortunately tear apart our country and divide it even further. But to some extent, that's what the Democrats try to do. They try to highlight our differences instead of what we share as Americans.
Yeah, and when it comes to Joe and Hunter Biden, look here today, not there, what we were talking about yesterday. Matthew Whitaker, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you.
All right, good to see you.